All right, hello everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of We Ballin. Today we got a bunch to talk about. We got to talk about Dante Moore and Kate Piper going back. We have to talk about Coach Ferentz and John Harbaugh being the new coach of the New York Giants. And finally, we got playoff predictions. So let's get into it. Also, quickly before we start, we have our new co-host Jack, who's going to be on the show. If you want to know who Jack is, he's the guy who's born at the age of 24 or whatever, however old he is. He's in his mid-20s. But anyway, back to the podcast. As you all know, there have been 3 major things in the coaching world. 1, Mike Tomlin finally got fired. Thank fucking God, or whatever the hell the reason is. 2, that son of a bitch known as Kevin Patullo's gone, which also, thank fucking God. And 3rd, John Harbaugh got hired by the Giants. So let's talk about that. So we'll start off with Mike Tomlin. This should have happened a long time ago. I don't know why it took this long for them to fire this man. I mean, to put it quite mildly, it had become the standard to go 9-8 or 10-7 and make the playoffs and then get your ass smoked in the wild card round every single fucking year, as was demonstrated repeatedly over time. Obviously, Tomlin is a Hall of Famer. There's no doubt about that. I mean, there's a reason why he was able to stay on the job for 19 years. But at the end of the day, it just wasn't cutting anymore. Playing the same damn old-ass cover 2 over and over and over again and being one of the most predictable teams in the league and getting your ass carried, to put it mildly, by TJ Watt and Cameron Hayward every single fucking week wasn't cutting anymore. And I do expect the Steelers to be worse before things get better, unless they hire like the fucking Rams OC and say fuck it, and he decides to turn around the team in 1 year. But I definitely think this will be a long-term rebuild that's been needed to be done in Pittsburgh ever since 2018 and days of our Steelers. It has been boiling for a very long time. The Steelers have tried to hold off desperately, and hey, I mean, they got a couple division titles out of it, but at the end of the day, it had to be done for a long time ago, and props to Tomlin. He was able to survive 8 years, despite the fact that 2018 happened, and look where he got it. I hope he enjoys the booth for a year. I don't think he'll ever return to coaching once he realizes how fun being in the booth is, or wherever he ends up being. But I don't think I expect him to coach anytime soon, considering he's been on the job for 18 years.
I do think, depending on who they go for and or really what they're looking for, do they want to stay as this dominant defensive style team, or do they want to change it up, go get an offensive guy? I know that the Seahawks OC is going to be available. And with Harbaugh to the Giants, that's one less team to worry about. And I also think whoever they go for changes what they do in the drafts. So if they go for an offensive guy, I do think there is a possibility they take a quarterback that's not Fernando Mendoza somehow. Ty Simpson or Trinidad Chambliss. Take your pick.
Trinidad's going back. I've heard Ty Simpson round 1 from multiple people, which I don't get why.
For me, I don't understand that. I like if you were to take him to the Rams to let him develop, then sure. But day 1 starter, I wouldn't agree with that.
I think he'll be a backup for most of his career, just because his pocket awareness is to put it quite mildly, absolutely terrible.
I think there's 2 intriguing candidates for the Steelers job. But first off, it's interesting that for the first time in maybe forever, the Steelers aren't hiring anyone from within the organization. It's already clear that Smith is either going to stay on as OC if they hire a defensive-minded head coach, if he doesn't want to bring his guy in, or he's going to be taking an OC or head coaching job elsewhere. So you already have predetermined the fact that you're not hiring from within the organization itself, which means that the Steelers are entering a whole new world of coaching and possibilities. You no longer have you may no longer have a defensive-minded head coach at the realm. But I do think that there's 2 solid defensive coaches out there that I think can revitalize the Steelers scheme a little bit. And as long as you get the proper people on offense, I think this Steelers team could actually just not even end up being a rebuild, but just a repackaging of who they have on the roster. I think the first intriguing name that comes to mind for me is Vance Joseph, the current DC of the Broncos. Obviously, he is the complete opposite of Tomlin in terms of scheme. Vance wants to blitz. He wants to play man coverage. He wants to just be super aggressive. He obviously comes from that Wade Phillips type of defensive philosophy. Whereas Tomlin, he's playing cover 2. He wants to play it safe. He wants to just let people on the front line just make plays. I do think Vance can revitalize the scheme, even though it may require an entire rehaul of the people you have on in your defensive backfield. The other candidate I would suggest for being a defensive-minded head coach is Robert Saleh. But I have to have a condition set on that. You have to get pretty much in writing from Rodgers beforehand that he's not playing next year. I think if you have Rodgers and Saleh on the same roster, you have that on the same team, I guess you should say, you're going to have that one-sided beef towards Saleh, where Rodgers is just going to openly defy your head coach, be antagonistic towards him, and you're going to end up with a similar Jet situation where you have a really talented, promising team, but you're not gelling as a team. What this Steelers team needs right now is a gel, and I think they can get through that with Robert Saleh. You just can't have Rodgers on the roster anymore.
Yeah, although I will say the Steelers organization is infinitely better than the Jets, considering what happened with Moore, which we'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, I mean, I do think the Steelers do have a good organization, as much as I shit on them consistently, because they somehow have been able to be competitive for this long. Although, to be fair, middling. So I do think they'll be fine, but this is just like the Eagles back in early 2012s, or 2010s, excuse me, where it was Andy Reid's end of tenure and they were just stuck, right? They were completely stuck. They didn't know what to do, and then they got rid of him, and it ended up working out. So I definitely do see that being the ultimate case for the Steelers in this situation.
As far as the Steelers goes, I don't think they keep Arthur Smith, though I do think it would be a good fit because his dad owns FedEx, who also doesn't deliver on Sundays. But a name I've heard going to the Steelers a lot from Steelers fans is Chris Shula. I don't know too much about the Steelers job. I don't know much about Chris Shula. I know he's doing pretty good as the Rams DC right now. I don't know if he's the top DC in the league, I'd say. They've had a few struggles on defense this season. Their secondary hasn't been super great, but I do think he'd be a very good head coach candidate because I think he's being looked at by a lot of teams. Whether it's his year to make the step into head coach or if he waits till next season is wait to be seen, but I don't think he would be terrible for the Steelers. But then again, I don't know too much about him or the Steelers' job. And then moving on to Harbaugh and the Giants. Harbaugh on the Giants, I think, is very interesting. First off, I think he's going to be great for them. I question the deal a little bit. It's a lot of money. He's getting a 5-year, $100 million deal, which is among the highest paid coaches in the NFL. I don't know if he's necessarily earned that in the past few years, but I'd argue that he is one of the most tenured and successful head coaches in the NFL currently. So I don't mind the deal overall, but I just question the timing of it more so. But really, there's not much control over the timing, so I guess I understand it. I think he's really good. I think he runs a really good scheme. There's talk he might bring Todd Monken with him to the Giants, which I think Todd Monken with Malik Neighbors and Jack Stoddard and Cam Scadaboo, I think will be really good. Harbaugh's refusal to utilize his running backs may also pair great with Cam Scadaboo's desire to run like he's trying to hurt himself. So overall, I think it's a really good hire for the Giants. I think it'll work out well for them, and I think in a few years we'll be talking about them in the playoffs in this podcast when we talk about these divisional round games. I think they will be there.
I love the Harbaugh hire for the Giants. I think this is a well-deserved award for sucking so bad for Giants. I definitely agree. I think that offense is going to be a whole lot of fun next year. Monken can essentially recreate in a certain way what he had with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson when he was in Baltimore. And the first year when he was offensive coordinator in 2023 for the Ravens, Lamar won MVP. Ravens looked almost pretty much unstoppable, and obviously they regressed the past couple of years. But obviously, I think that short, quick burst can get this Giants team over the hump. This is a team that's undoubtedly talented. I mean, Dart looks like a star. Scadaboo's a tough-nosed guy. You have Andrew Thomas on your offensive line holding the anchor down. Yes, you need to clean up the interior a little bit, but you still have Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, and Thibodeau's kind of slowly getting up out of the gutter after a slow start to his career. You need to clean up your secondary, but I really do believe the Giants have a very good baseline for where they can jump off next year with Harbaugh being just a great leader of men. I do think that the stuff that was said in Baltimore was probably a little bit over exaggerated. And I think overall this is about the best you could possibly get from a head coach perspective if you're a Giants fan.
I do think this is a great hire as well. This is something they've needed for a long time, and a guy who can set a culture. Now, you'll have some people disagree with that, but do you agree with that, Fancy? That he is a culture setter?
I would say he is a culture setter. He obviously set the culture in Baltimore, set a Super Bowl winning culture. That culture didn't last, but there is still a very strong culture in there. You look at 2019 when he won Coach of the Year, there was a very strong culture. Even in 2023, a year in which a lot of people said he struggled a lot, especially in the playoffs, he still built a very strong culture. Even with the rookie class like Zay Flowers coming in, he added to that culture. I think the Baltimore culture has always been there, and this is really the first year that I haven't seen it, I'd say. And so he's always a very good culture guy. It's just sometimes the scheming, the play calling, the personnel use that I've had issues with in the past few years, but culture has never been one of my issues.
Yeah, so I do think that is important when you have a young, talented offense. You hit on Jackson Dart, you hit on Malik Neighbors, you hit on Cam Scatteraboo. Now, you do have to build up this offensive line, but if Todd Monken comes to this team, they will be exciting. They will be a fun, young, exciting team. You just got to build the offensive line, which he didn't really do the past few years, but that's a different conversation. The other side is defense. What are you going to do there? Do we know if they fired their DC or is he staying?
I have no idea, but if whoever their draft pick is going to be, it's probably going to be Caden Proctor or Sonny Styles. So if you want help on defense, I mean, Styles is going to be right there.
To me, their main issue defensively has been their secondary. Like, obviously, their linebacker core is a weakness, but their secondary has been super inconsistent over the years. But really, it's just about setting culture, as I've said, and that's the most important part. That's really all I have to say. Great hire. Regardless of the price, you got a guy who can come in, set the culture for your young quarterback, for your young team. And that's really all that matters. Now, all he has to do is win.
All right, so I'm going to vary from you, all of you three, in terms of my opinion on this hire. I was watching Bootleg earlier, or not today, but like a couple days ago, and Brett mentioned how during the 2012 season, it was the players who set the culture, right? This has been, for the most part, a player-driven culture because they do not like John Harbaugh. It's been that way pretty much his entire tenure, right? And when I look at like the talent for the Giants, right? Yes, they do have pieces, right? They do. Do I think John Harbaugh elevates that in any sort of way, given his history with players, especially this season where every single Baltimore Raven hated him? No, I don't think that. I do think on a good team, he can serve as that guy that can help you guide through the playoffs. But in terms of building a culture, I don't think so, because when damn near your entire team hates you, and there's shit out in the press about the players shit on you to their wives, right? I don't know how that will go well, especially in New York, where it's even 10 times the magnified and everything, right? And do they have Dexter Lawrence? Do they have Jackson Dart? Do they have Javon Holland? Yes. Do I think this will be a multi-year rebuild again? Yeah, because the rest of the team outside of their big guys suck. So if things don't go well smoothly in year one and the Giants end up dudding, I think this could easily be a 1 year stopgap, similar to Pete Carroll, similar to Urban Meyer. But there's a lot, and I mean a lot, that has to happen for that to happen. Given John Harbaugh's history, I trust that he can get to the playoffs if the talent is there. But do I trust him to build anything up? No. I don't think so. Do I trust him to win big games? No, to put it quite mildly. So there's a lot I have about this hire. I do think it does differ from what they've usually hired in the past, and I do think it is worth a shot with the Giants, considering their last, 10 years of existence of just sucking outside of a few playoff appearances. So I do agree with the concept of the hire, but I don't know if John Harbaugh will do anything in New York. And ownership aside, I don't know what's going to happen to Harbaugh in the next 2 years or whatever the hell, but I'll happily eat my words if he ends up turning around. But given the fact of what happened this year in Baltimore, along with every other year where it was player driven. A lot of players did not like John Harbaugh, especially during the Super Bowl season. I just don't know. Like, I can easily see this falling flat. It could end up going well, but my initial gut feeling is that something is about to go wrong in New York in 1 year and he's gone. Like, I can totally see that happening.
I understand completely where you're coming from. I would have two counterpoints that I would have. The first bit was, I think a lot of the stuff that we heard about Harbaugh in the last year has to do with, it came out when the Ravens were losing. Yes. Losing kind of pits people against each other. I mean, having been there, I've been on losing and winning collegiate rosters. You know, like winning, like everyone loves each other, everyone likes each other. You can put stuff aside if you guys are winning. If you're losing, everyone starts pointing fingers. Everybody starts pushing the blame around. And obviously, to the Ravens, the season was rough. And I think, which is why when I was speaking, I was like, I think that a lot of this stuff is over-exaggerated. They're losing. Tempers get high. People start pointing fingers. And yes, that blame does fall upon a coach in a certain way. And you know, did he maybe not take as much responsibility for it? I mean, he probably should have taken more, right? But again, I think it really boils down to, hey, this team was losing. They're in losing situations. I mean, they almost still made the playoffs. I mean, which speaks a lot to the Ravens roster and just the amount of talent they had there. However, my second point would be is you talk about it being a player-driven culture, like in that 2012 Ravens Super Bowl season. And I also completely agree with that point. But I also think that the culture from the players right now is a lot better in New York than it was about a year ago. The culture a year ago in New York was probably some of the worst I've ever seen. Again, players openly blaming Dayball, that feuding with the GM, like you had the Ray McCloud situation with Joe Schoen. Like that culture was bad. But now that you have your scapegoats, you already know you've placed blame on people. It's a new, fresh season. You can start with a blank canvas. If this Giants team starts off in a good foot, I mean, I think all the culture concerns will really go away pretty quickly.
I do feel like with the first point, I'm not going to touch the second point because I don't know much about Giants culture. But with the first point, it felt like eventually something was going to crack because winning does solve everything. But underlying, like I'm going to use the Cardinals, for example, right? A lot of people wanted Gannon to stay even though they sucked, right? So,
yeah, I
don't like... To me, like, if you can't like get your players going, especially like on a losing like on a winning team, how am I expecting you to do the same on a losing team, where you can't get along with your players? And so that is a main concern for me with this hire. But at the end of the day, I do think I get what the Giants are trying to do. We'll just have to see how it plays out. Finally, the most well-deserved firing of this entire coaching cycle, Kevin Patullo is no longer the OC of the Eagles. Thank fucking God. Every single time I watch film of this team, it was inside zone, and some bullshit fucking whatever you call it, pass concept on third down. Thank fucking God this guy is gone. Now, does he take the full blame for why the Eagles sucked on offense this year? No. The skill talent does have some of the blame to do with this. But when you're scoring 12 points with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, and Dallas Goedert as your weapons, and you have Jalen Hurts at QB, who, although I do think he does have his issues... Yeah, and a decent offensive line, right? Besides Tyler Steen, and apparently Cam Jurgens might have had some bad plays this year. I don't know, I gotta check the film. But you have a good offense, and you're scoring 12 points against the Bills team who can't run defense to save their fucking life. Like, come on. Like, that should be a fireable offense. And I hope for Philly's sake, I think next year Sirianni will be gone if they lose again like that. And he should have been fired, to keep it clear. Sirianni should have been gone, even though he just won a Super Bowl. But I hope for Eagles fans' sake, they actually get someone who knows how to run an offense. Because god fucking damn, this year was terrible to watch. Every single time I turned on Eagles tape, it was fucking miserable to watch. And it just felt like Penn State from this year where you knew it was coming, and you just didn't know how they were going to implode. And luckily for Eagles fans, they imploded in the wild card round, and Patullo is gone. So just get someone good, please. Just get someone who isn't going to run inside zone 50% of the time, please. Someone who doesn't take their offense from Madden and then implement it into a real NFL game, please. That's all I'm asking of the Eagles. Howie Roseman, please don't fuck this up. You're a good GM. I know you know better, but stop fucking with Nick Sirianni assistants and actually get someone outside the building. It clearly worked on the defensive side of the ball. It should work on offense. I'll leave it at that.
I don't have a ton on Kevin Patullo. I just know he's terrible. I didn't watch much of the Eagles because of how bad he was and how angry he made me. So I can't really comment much on his scheming or anything like that just because I didn't watch him because he made me so frustrated. I watched him like the first 4 weeks of the season and I checked out. So it's just, I mean, that's how bad it was that me, who's addicted to football, barely watched a second of Eagles football outside of that Chargers game, which, man, that was another thing again. But that's probably partially Patullo's fault too. I mean, 2 turnovers in 1 play by Jalen Hurts, blaming on Patullo, probably. But still, yeah, I don't have much to say other than just thankfully he's gone.
Jalen Hurts has won a Super Bowl, which is more than I can say for a lot of quarterbacks that I think are better than him. And I do think Patullo has had awful play calling, but when I really think about the situation the Eagles are in, like, I would consider trading to go get like just an exceptionally better quarterback. Like, I would consider a Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff-esque play for the Eagles. And it's not like because I don't like Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is a fine quarterback, but something tells me that this team is still a quarterback away. A good quarterback can rise above the fact that your offensive coordinator may not be all that. Yes, they work in tandem, but like a quarterback can go rogue at points. He can call his own plays. I mean, he's the field general for a reason, and people look up to them. He's the inspiration for the whole team, the whole offense, right? And I think a lot of offenses now are predicated on how good your quarterback can play. And I look at Jalen Hurts, and no offense to Jalen Hurts, won a Super Bowl, but can he really lead this Eagles rosters into the future? I think Patullo is 100% part of the problem, probably 90% of the problem. But when the right play is called, when it's in the right situation, you have the right people in the right spot, what does Jalen Hurts do? He doesn't make the right throw. He doesn't make the right read. You need a quarterback that can rise above that. And I just don't think Jalen Hurts is the guy for the Eagles. I think you got to start looking like, again, your quarterback away. What are you going to do about it? I do think there's some intriguing names. Obviously, we've seen what Mike McDaniel can do with a talented roster and, a quarterback from Alabama, of all places. We know what he can do. He might get a head coaching job. I think that's probably unlikely. And I know that Fangio and McDaniel have some sort of beef. At least I've heard behind the scenes. But if you can put that aside for just a little bit, and you let Fangio run the defense, you let McDaniel run the offense, I think we're going to find out how stupidly dangerous this Eagles team can truly be.
I agree with you sometimes that Hurts doesn't feel like he's playing to what he needs to be. But at the end of the day, you won a Super Bowl with him. And it's not you won with him. A lot of the times you won because of him. He can be the guy, and he's shown to be the guy, and he won it. He won it all, which is more than what I can say about my team. And speaking of, I'm quite sad that Patullo's gone, because now I have to worry about Jalen Hurts looking like his 2024 self, looking like his 2022 self, especially if they get the right guy. So a lot of the times I think he didn't look as good simply because they had no momentum. When it's run, pass for 3 straight times or something like that, you're not going to get any momentum. You're not going to be able to connect with AJ Brown or Devontae Smith when you're not actually throwing them the ball. So yeah, for me, I don't think getting rid of Jalen Hurts solves the problem. I think getting a better offensive coordinator will help And I just think you need to get Jalen Hurts back to where he used to be. And that's his 2024 self, his 2022 self, giving him the momentum, allowing him to run when need be, and also making sure that Saquon Barkley isn't running inside zone 90% of the time. Get him outside, get him in space, give him the ball in pass catching situations. You just need to figure it out. I don't think Jalen Hurts is the problem. Yes, could you upgrade it from Jalen Hurts? Yes, but for one of the examples you use, when a great quarterback and overcome a bad offensive coordinator. One example where what we're seeing with Hurts is Herbert and Greg Roman. Now, Greg Roman is also gone, but would you all agree that Justin Herbert is better than Jalen Hurts?
Yes.
Yes, unequivocally.
Yep.
But can we all agree that Justin Herbert hasn't been what he needed to be sometimes when play call is right? Rarely for Greg Roman.
I mean, the only real playoff game he ever had a shot winning was 2023 against the Jaguars, and that completely fucking fumbled because of defense. So, Fancy, don't fucking celebrate. We know what happened to your team last week. Anyway, continue.
So yeah, I don't think Hurts is the issue. I do think Patulu was the biggest issue, and now that he's gone, you have a chance to get someone. You have the chance to get the right person. Now, for Sirianni, he seems like a guy you can win with, not because of. But you won a Super Bowl with him. You can't really get rid of him unless you have a definitive upgrade. And as of right now, there's not a guy I would say, oh yeah, he's absolutely better than Sirianni. To me, there's not a guy proven like that available. And the guy
I would hire Kubiak and I would hire Salah over Sirianni right now.
That's a completely fair opinion, but for most people, you just say stick with the guy you won with. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Now, the broken part is obviously Patulu, and he's gone. And that's really all I have to say.
This is the second time under Sirianni that they were expected to be really good, and then their offensive play calling, because they promoted assistants, fucked them over. So I don't see why Sirianni should be given that leash for being a Super Bowl winner when he can't get when he promotes from within. Next, we got declarations. We have two major players going back to school. One is Dante Moore, and two is Cade Piper. First, I'll talk about Dante Moore, and second, I'll talk about Cade Piper. So, with Dante, this is just him avoiding the Jets. I mean, there's not much to say to it other than that. And good for him. He's getting $7.5 million to go back to school, which someone reported, so I can say that publicly. So good for Dante Moore. Good for his development. I don't buy the BS of the 20 starts rule with him, to be honest, because he is a 2-year starter. Although his first year at UCLA, whatever the fuck that was whatever the fuck that was. But
he's true freshman.
Yeah, like I'm not going to fault him for that. Like he got the year behind the bench, and now he's going to probably go. I don't know if he's going to go number one, but he's going to go very high next year, right? And he gets to make a $7.5 million bag as well. Which, if he somehow ends up falling, that's more than Zay Flowers' signing bonus as a rookie, right? So good for Dante Moore. Good for Oregon. I'm sure their roster is at least above 30 million. Probably will be 40 million this year. If you're wondering why that is. The rev share agreement, I'm pretty sure you cannot enforce legally, from what I've heard. So that's off limits. So we're going to see more deals like this, where, like, let's just say Julian Sand, right? I would not be surprised. Like, if he develops into a first round pick, which I don't know if that will happen, he'll probably get 10 million to go back next year, because it went from 3 million with like Cam Ward or whatever the hell to probably to like 4.5 to 5 million, and now it's at 7.5. So the bar for QB payments is only going to increase further and further and further. And good on him for getting the bag, quite honestly. And also, after that Indiana loss, I could see why he came back, because he did want to avenge from last season. So good for him. Now on to Cade Piper. I get why he left, but goddamn it, I wish he left school early, because number one, him staying in college makes this class even weaker than it already was, and this class is dog shit, right? So I do wish we did have a first-round center this year, just to make this draft class a little bit better, because he would have gone round one if he had declared. You could have put him at guard, quite honestly, if he continued to increase weight, because right now he is 295. But I do understand why he did go back to school to get the center experience before he declares for 2027. So I don't fault Cade for that, but god damn it, I wish he declared, just because this class is so ass. So the kid's going to be an all-pro when he comes out. I wish nothing for the best for him next year. I hope he doesn't get injured. I hope we continue to see him build on strength as he continues to grow. But yeah, god damn it, this class is gonna be so boring to watch.
For more. For me, it's interesting that he would take not the development, but he'd rather take less money to go back to college because he would be making less. Would he be making less money? Whereas
Yes.
if he,
Second
like,
overall
let's
picks,
just
I
say
believe, make
second overall.
12 million.
Okay. So
yeah, 12 million per year.
he's taking less money to develop, and he's trying to cash in on being QB1 next year, which I think he very well can be.
Yeah, he's the front runner right now.
Issue is next year you don't know what happens. He could get hurt. He could play worse, as we've seen with, let's see, everyone from this class outside of Fernando Mendoza. It could be it can be grass is greener, but it could be Garrett Nussmeier. And given how loaded 2027 is, he might not even go top 3, depending on what happens. It's all possibility from here. I think him doing what he's doing right now makes sense. And also for the Jets, it's not like he can get away from the Jets. They have 3 first-round picks next year.
He still has 2 years of eligibility, so he can wait this out as long as he wants to get away from New York. If he has that guarantee that they're not going to draft him.
So yeah, I think it's a good move for him development-wise, but money-wise, it's not, and that's just a fact. But if he can be QB1 next year, props to him, and I think he can be. It's just going to be a lot harder to do with what can be a significantly more talented class. You have him. You have me personally. I love Drew Mestamaker. I think he could be the top quarterback next year. You're going to have Lenore Sellers. You're going to have who else? You're going to have
Hoover, Bailey. I need to watch more film on Bailey, but nobody likes him.
I like Bailey.
Yeah, I need to watch more film because I've heard bad reviews of them. JKS, if they decide to implement the sophomore rule,
I doubt it.
I doubt they do, but I definitely think there's a freshman and sophomore rule coming at this point.
And obviously, can't forget Manning. I mean,
Manning, and DJ Lagway.
Yeah, and Lagway. Yep.
So yeah, it's going to be tougher, as long as everyone hits, which obviously that probably won't happen. But it will be tougher for him to be QB1, especially given that everyone wants Arch to go number 1. Though I do think he could go back again since he's a Manning. They all graduate, and it seems like he's going to do the same thing. So it's going to be tougher for him to be QB1. He has the tools to do it. He already has the potential to do it. But this could have been the year where he could have declared easily been QB2, or hell, some people even think he's QB1 in this class.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, the game last week kind of proves that he wasn't.
I mean, there's a lot of things you can say about that game. I think if Mendoza was on Oregon, the exact same thing would happen.
I will say the games this week were so good between Ole Miss, Miami, and the NFL playoffs. There were just so many good games. I almost forgot there was a game on Friday, and I think Dante Moore did too.
Isaiah World forgot there was a game.
Oh my god, I can go on off about Isaiah World being ass and Harkey too.
So
but
bad.
goddamn, their tackle duo was ass the entire fucking game. When I get all 22 tape, I want to see how fucking bad Harkey and World got shit on because of how stiff both of them are. I don't know about Harkey as much, but goddamn, Isaiah World is stiff as a motherfucker. He does not have range to save his fucking life.
He's going back to school, right?
No, World has no eligibility.
Oh damn, that was.
He'll go probably like day three as a guard. That's my guess. But yeah, I mean, it's just hard to find college tackles at that level. Like, I mean, Indiana is beating the shit out of teams because they're smarter than everybody else. Like, they're quick setting their tackles like 80% of the time, right? And I mean, Carter Smith is able to get away with that, right? Their guys are able to get away with that, and then you just have receivers who can do shit, and you're scoring 56 against the top five team in the country. So it's like, I mean, that's what Indiana does.
Back to Dante Moore though.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, I obviously front runner for QB1 next year without a doubt. Don't know if he can evade the Jets though. I really don't. But I will touch on this that you mentioned earlier. This class, we've kind of been due for a bad class for a while. Like, we've had some incredible classes, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, and defensive. Like, there's a lot of players that we've drafted in the past 5 years that were just phenomenal. Past 5-6 years, these classes are so good. But I definitely think that the implementation of NIL, the transfer portal, and all that stuff that's going around, these like non-enforceable contracts that these players are signing, it's definitely like opened up this window for people to start coming back. And I definitely think it's hurt the depth of classes moving forward permanently. Like if you're a late day 3, like maybe mid day 3 guy, there's probably no point in you declaring for the draft anymore.
Except for running back. That's the only exception.
Like you're coming back, you're going back to school, right? Maybe you go to a new school, maybe you stay and actually graduate, because a lot of these players don't. But it's like the depth of these classes has definitely just taken a big hit. Like I remember players last year, even 2 years ago, that you be drafting them mid day 3, and then it's like you feel like you're getting so much bang for your buck. But it doesn't feel like that this year. It definitely feels like you have the NIL and portal has taken full effect. People are going back to school, and that's it. Like they're taking their paycheck from NIL, and they're calling it that. And when they graduate, when they milk as much out of it as they can, they finally declare. But it was probably way too late because they are no longer peaked.
I definitely agree with you on that. I also want to ask you another thing is that given how you have these players going back to college, you're going to have weaker classes. You think they'll have weaker classes overall, but do you think you will have certain classes like next year occasionally where it is just loaded? Because you'll have the super young guys who will obviously declare as early as possible because they know they will be first rounders. And then you're going to have the guys who did go back and had amazing years, and they'll add to this depth. So do you think you'll see more weaker classes like this year, and then you'll every 3-4 years and so you'll have a class that we expect to have like next year?
I mean, I think it's I'm not 100% sure, if I'm going to be honest. I partially want to think that next year is probably going to be an exception to the rule. And I think it's because we are still very early in this era of the transfer portal and paying collegiate players, that not everybody has the game truly figured out yet. I definitely think that moving forward, the classes will probably get weaker. They'll probably be stronger than this year's for sure, but they're nowhere as near going to be as strong as next year's class. I mean, at least next year's class as in terms of quarterbacks. But again, we just briefly mentioned it, but these players still have one more year to play. What if they go out and they don't play as good anymore? They don't have the motivation. Are they still round 1 graded prospects? Or what do you do with them? I'll use Ryan Williams from Alabama as an example. As a rookie, as a freshman, I mean, basically the same thing. He looked like the top 5 player in college football. Right? He looked like the second best receiver. Obviously, Jeremiah Smith looked like the number 1 wide receiver by week 8. But
like number 1
Ryan Williams looked incredible, right? And then what happened this year? You have a new QB, culture shifts a little bit, you get paid money, maybe you lose a little bit of motivation. Maybe you didn't train hard enough. And look what happened. He just did not look like a round 1 wide receiver anymore. And then who knows? Maybe the next year he's going to look like a round 1 wide receiver again, or maybe he becomes a footnote in history, right? And maybe he just ends up going late day 3. We don't know. And it's all because of the thing, which is people, which we have been granted kids more eligibility to. We've been given kids 6 years, 7 years. I mean, Diego Pavia's going for year 8 or something?
No, he's declaring.
Okay. Well, I'm glad he's not, right? But there's no sense in developing talent anymore because kids are going places. Kids are getting paid. like, what's the point if you're a mid-grade school? What's the point in developing talent anymore? Because you're just buying and selling players back and forth. And it's definitely going to hurt the draft classes moving forward, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's something I've kind of talked about with friends and family. I've said the same things. I think it's definitely going to hurt the draft process. I think we're going to see a lot more top-end guys maybe not perform as well, and a lot more later-round picks maybe perform better than they historically have. So I think that's something that is definitely something to look out for if you're an NFL GM at this point, looking to remain in that job. You're going to have to start maybe drafting a little different than you currently do draft. And also, on Dante Moore, there is a little bit of a ripple effect from him going back to Oregon. There is a recent Oregon commit at quarterback that has entered the transfer portal, but not the one you think. Bryson Beaver, their freshman 4-star, has entered the transfer portal after Dante Moore commit or return to school. Probably because he was lined up to be QB3 and he's a freshman. As a freshman, you're going to want that development. I completely understand his decision to transfer. He's a guy to look out for in the transfer portal. I mean, of course, it closes tomorrow night, so we'll see where he ends up. Probably by the time the podcast was released, I'm sure Dante can edit it up. But Dylan Raiola, as far as he goes, I think he seems like he's going to stay, and I think he made the right decision there because it allows him to redshirt the 2026 season. And the NCAA just did pass updated redshirt rules so that you can play up to 9 games now instead of just 4, which is huge for players like Dylan Raiola who wants to get development and potentially redshirt next season. And he did suffer a broken right fibula at Nebraska this past year, and he will likely be ready to play at the start of the season, but I think maintaining an extra year for eligibility would be in his best interest, and that would let him play through the 2028 season.
So, real quick, I'm pretty sure, I mean, I might be wrong. I'm pretty sure the transfer portal, the window is only for when you're eligible to enter your name into it. You can still declare to schools up until essentially whenever you want. It's just only within this time block you have. Yeah. So you don't have to commit until a week down the road, I believe, which I don't think should be a problem for him. I'm sure there's plenty of schools that are, looking to be a great suitor for him, for the freshman quarterback. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are talking about how, these draft classes is going to get weaker. I mean, I think Darren Raiola, however, is probably making a good decision because I think he's kind of recognized that. And I think he realizes he needs a little bit of development because there were points this year when Darren Raiola did not look like a very good quarterback. So maybe he thinks, okay, maybe I can't keep that. Maybe I transfer around. I go find a guy that can probably develop me to be the best version of myself I possibly can and stick with it, right? Stick with it a couple of years, be a backup, and then go out and be successful. We see this model turn out to be very successful in the NFL, in my opinion. I understand NFL is not college, but sometimes when you let rookies sit for a year, 2 years, maybe even just half a season, they turn out to be very good. Or sometimes you just need them to adjust to the pace of the game. I think there are people like Raiola might need a little bit of time adjusting to the pace of the game. Then he can go be successful. I don't know what the case is there, but I do think there are going to be some players moving forward. Hey, if the NFL is the end goal, I need to stay. I need to go get developed by the right people at the right place. And then it's all going to turn out better.
As far as Dylan Raiola goes, I also think he's making the right decision to stay at Oregon, as it seems he's going to. I mean, if he was going to transfer, he should have done it already. So he did suffer a broken right fibula at Nebraska this past year, and while he'll likely be ready to play at the start of next season, I still think it's a smart decision to redshirt. The NCAA did just increase the redshirt rules to 9 games. You can play up to 9 games instead of just 4, which is what it was this past season. And that is huge for guys like Dylan Raiola because it allows him to redshirt, get that development, and it would increase his eligibility up to 2028 season. So I think maintaining that extra year of eligibility will be in his best interest, and I think it's a really good move for him.
I agree with y'all. Going to Oregon, staying at Oregon to develop is the right decision as well. But I do think it is quite rough, as if you were a Nebraska fan, to hear, yeah, instead of starting at our school, for him, it's better to sit and be a backup rather than start for us. I do think that is quite rough for Nebraska fans, though they do have very talented guy in TJ Lateef. I am very excited to see what he can do as a starter next year. And I also think this is also going to impact a lot of other teams and a lot of other players where they will just be like, okay, does it make sense for me to start here at a school that's not going to be very good, or go to a great school, develop behind better coaching, and then ball out a year after?
Yeah, I do agree with all of you that Dylan probably should go back. Not should go back. Do transfer and sit out a year. I do think it's good for his development. But anybody have anything on Cade Piper they want to say?
Damn, it sucks that this class is going to be rough offensive line wise.
I mean,
we lost
luckily there's like
we lost him.
There's some guys, but it's getting better now. But it's still not the greatest.
Yeah, I would say
Sorry, Chargers. Sorry, Niners.
Yeah.
I mean, the Chargers could just draft in this Cooper. They'll be fine.
I'll just say, hey, I think there's a need for a talent infusion at offensive line for the NFL. And I think there has been for a little bit of time here. At least, I'll say at least a couple of seasons. Yeah, shame he's going back. But, I mean, good for him. Go get developed. Go get ready.
As long as Cade Piper can stay in shape for the next 4 months, I hope he does, because he could be a Hall of Fame player. But please, for the love of fucking God, stay at a fucking 340, whatever you were at mid to late end season, whatever the hell, for the next 4 months. Just please do so. Just do for your sake, please. Anyway,
how heavy was he? How heavy did you say he was?
So he was around 340 during midseason, and then he apparently bulked up towards the late end, and then during the Rose Bowl, or during the end of season, from what I heard. So yeah, as long as he can stay at the weight where he was playing peak at, he should be fine. But if he does have those weight issues, he will be kicking the guard, and he'll still be great. But I'd much rather have him as a 340 Hall of Fame tackle than a 370 good guard. All right, now we got playoff predictions. So I'm gonna let Fancy take over because his team's lost last week. Yay! So Fancy, why don't you start with Buffalo? Okay.
Before we get into this game, I just want to take a moment to talk about this Broncos offense, if that's what you want to call that thing. So, matter of fact, let's do a new segment called How Angry Will Fancy Get by talking about the 2025 Denver Broncos. Man, this offense, it reminds me of black licorice, dude. It is disgusting. I hate it. It's terrible. It looks so ugly. It smells awful. And for some reason, it sometimes works, even though it shouldn't in any way. So let's review the Broncos season, shall we? Let's look at this. So they started week 1. They had a very, very ugly win against the Titans, setting the bar so well. Game decided in the fourth quarter against the Titans, who were battling for the number 1 overall pick late into the season. Then they had 2 very good showings against the Broncos, against the Colts and the Chargers, who at the time were both 2 very, very good teams, looked like 2 of the best teams in the NFL. I'll take that. They lost by 1 point to the Colts. They lost by 3 points to the Chargers. 2 losses, but they played very well. I will take it. Then they blew out the Bengals, who were starting Jake Browning, who was awful, but still beat them 28-3. So that's 3 really good games in a row. And then they hit the Eagles game, which they won by 4 against a struggling Eagles offense with Kevin Patullo. Then, ladies and gentlemen, they beat the New York Jets by 2 in a game where the Jets were starting a backup quarterback that had -7 passing yards. They beat them by 2 in the fourth quarter.
After a comeback, too.
You're telling me this is our 14-3 Broncos? And then the next week, they beat the Giants 33-32 after scoring 33 points in the fourth quarter on a fluke win. 33 points in the fourth quarter. That's what they needed to win that game by 1 point. And then, okay, you go through that crap, whatever that is. You had the Cowboys game, 44-24. Great win. Love it. Then they beat the Texans by 3, 18-15 in a game that probably made everyone fall asleep. Then they tried to, if people weren't already asleep, they beat the Raiders 10-7 in what was probably the worst game of the entire season. And then they beat the Chiefs by 3. Then the Commanders by 1, only because the Commanders failed the 2-point conversion in overtime. And then they played the Raiders again. They beat the Raiders by 7. Sure, whatever. I'm used to it at this point. Then they had an excellent game against the Packers. Excellent game. Cinema. Great on both sides of the ball. Micah Parsons was still playing. Broncos played great. Packers played great. That was a very, very good game to watch. That was fun football. Then they got blown out by the Jaguars because they just forgot how to do anything. And it was 34-20. But that's only because the Broncos scored a garbage time touchdown. It was a 3-point game otherwise, or a 3-score game otherwise. Then they played Chris Oladokun, who I have never heard of in my life, but he was the starting quarterback for the Chiefs, and the Broncos beat them by 7. I've never heard of this man. He's the Chiefs' 3rd-string quarterback, and they only beat him by 7. When the Chiefs were eliminated from the playoffs already. And then they finished the season with a 19-3 win, which sounds great, against the Chargers. Against the Chargers defense, they scored 19 points, beat them by 16. That sounds great. They didn't have a single offensive touchdown all game. Not one.
Is this a good time
where the Chargers were also playing their backups?
Is this a good time to introduce that Jack is a Broncos fan? And I have a feeling you planned this simply because he was coming on this week.
I did not know that. I'm so sorry. Anyways.
Hey, look. You recapped the season incredibly well. You did.
Yeah, I got more.
Awesome. Okay. What's the thing that you said the most about that 17-game stretch? What's the one word that you said more than anything else?
1-score games, which they finished 11-2 in, by the way.
Okay. 1-score games is one word. The other one is win. They've won those games. A lot of teams will get into situations like that where they will crumble under pressure. This Broncos team, through all of its faults, and I will be the first to speak on them because I'm a fan, right? At the end of the day, they win games because they are hardened to the core. And another thing I need to point out is that their only loss was to a very talented Jaguars team at home. That's the only loss at home. Every other game that played at home has ended in a win for them. Yes, even the Giants game, even the Packers game, the Cowboys game, all these games, and it ended in a Broncos win. I don't think you can undersell how much of an advantage the Broncos had having a week to prepare and then having home field advantage. Now, throughout all of this, there's one. I think the Broncos have a more talented roster than the Bills. The Bills roster is all banged up. I mean, they have people on IR, people practicing limited, people not practicing. But for some reason, the one thing that scares me most about this game is Josh Allen. That's the only thing that I think you cannot account for in this game, which is why, as a Broncos fan, I feel like we're going to lose this game. Because you can't account for that kind of factor. Kind of like the Jags couldn't account for it. I don't think the Patriots couldn't account for it either when they played late in the season. Like, you can't account for a player that's as talented as him. I will speak on the Broncos' faults. I'll speak them proudly as a fan, but I think the Bills might win.
I thought you were going to say because Bo Nix can't throw more than 10 yards. But yeah, that's obviously the main thing with this game is that and you stop Josh Allen. Now you stopped a lot of pretty good quarterbacks this season. You stopped Dak, though to be fair, the only reason you stopped Dak is because our defense couldn't stop anything, and he had to come on the field and sing damn shit. You know what? That's not important. What is important is, will you be able to stop Josh Allen? I do think this defense is built to stop anyone in the league. And the other issue is, can your offense take advantage of this horrid run defense the Bills have? If they can, if you can, you don't have to worry about what Bo Nix is going to do. Now, Bo Nix has been good, but there's been a lot of moments where he's been Bo Picks, and you don't want to see Bo Picks in a playoff game. So for the Bills, make Bo Nix win the game. Make Bo Nix win the game with his arm. That's what you want to do if you're the Bills defense. If you're the Bills offense, do what you normally do. Go out, let Josh Allen do his thing. Also, run the ball. You got to be able to run the ball on this defense. It's going to be hard, but you got to be able to do it. For the Broncos, you need to be able to run the ball. It's going to be the same thing all playoffs for everyone. Be able to run the ball. And also, give Bo Nix easy reads, easy quick reads. That's what you're going to need to do. And when you have the deep shot, you have to hit the deep shots. If you cannot take advantage of this weak secondary, you're not going to win this game. If you cannot throw deep, you're not going to win. Talk about Broncos defense. Stop Josh Allen.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. I want to hear what you got.
Yeah, I got I got one more thing, then I promise I'll talk about this game. So I talked to a Broncos fan last week, and I brought up their offensive inconsistency. And this dude looked me dead in the eye and said, somebody obviously didn't watch the Bengals, Cowboys, or Packers game. Newsflash, if you have to name specific games in which your offense was consistent, it means it isn't consistent. Like, congratulations, Denver. Your offense was good for 3 games in a 17-game schedule. Clap it up. Yeah, Denver. Yeah. Okay. This team, man. I'm so sorry, Jack. I did not know you were a Broncos fan before starting this. I'm so sorry. I will say, I was excited for y'all this year. I was high on y'all. I thought y'all would do well. I did have them winning the division, which at the time was a very bold take over the Chiefs. I did have y'all winning the division. I just didn't think it would be like this, and it makes me so frustrated. And I am upset too, because I hate the Bills and I have to root for them now. I have to root for the Broncos now.
Yeah.
Even though I don't want to, just because of how much I hate the Bills. But
for a tie, man.
Yeah, I'm done.
Very first playoff tie. That's what you need to do.
Yeah, I hope so. Anyways, you continue while I calm down.
So, I mean, I disagree for what you guys have been saying about Bo Nix, and I don't think it's bias from my point of view. I don't. Maybe it is. But when you look at the Broncos' points per drive, it's actually slightly above average. So when you talk about, this Denver offense isn't consistent. It's not, scoring points that it should for the amount of talent it has. I think that's a bad argument, because yes, we may falter like on some plays. Yes, Bo Nix may make a bad read time or two, but points per drive, we're actually like very high up. And that's because we take a lot of time with the ball when we do have it. And with our defense having the third lowest points per play average in the league, behind Seattle and Houston, like, your offense has more opportunities to go out there and score. So it's a tale of 2 games that you can play. You can play the game where you have essentially a shootout. Your offenses are going to go 3 and out no matter what. And then it's going to be a challenge to who can generate the most explosives. Or you can have a game where you can grind it out. You take a long time of possessions and you drive the ball downfield and in a field goal, or you punt, right? And I think the Broncos have shown that they can win in both of those types of situations. They've won in a game like the Packers, where it became essentially some sort of shootout. But you've also won in games against the Texans when these drives took a long time. But it still ended up in Denver's favor. I do think, like, you guys are making me want to believe in Denver winning. And I do in my heart, but my brain tells me, hey, like, can you generate as many explosives as Josh Allen if you're willing to play that game? Or James Cook. Can't forget about James Cook. Like, can you, like, another thing, a thing that worries me is we will do an excellent job containing the run, but there'll always be 3 plays that the Broncos have a game where the running back just takes off and it's a huge explosive run. It's very impactful, and it just seems to always come at the worst moments. I'm worried about that. James Cook doing it. Jacobs did it to us like multiple times in that Packers game. And I mean, somehow he still ended up winning. But it's like Jacobs would break off an explosive and out of nowhere, just at the worst time for the Denver defense, and it ends in points. So I'm bad. My heart and my brain are battling each other pretty hard right now.
And I will say, I just looked up EPA per play stats, and Bo Nix isn't honestly that bad. He's 14th among like actual notable starting quarterbacks that have had over like 100 total plays. He's only 14th, which isn't terrible in the grand scheme of things. You know, it's not where you want to be, but there's a lot of room to grow there. It's not a bad mark. He is top 10 in total EPA. In fact, just 10th exactly. I do think it's worth noting Malik Willis is number 1 in EPA per play, which I think is interesting. He did not meet the 100 play threshold to really be considered notable for me, but I do think it's very interesting. Anyways, back to the Broncos. I'll finally talk about this game.
Yeah, finally.
So the Bills made it past the number 1 defense in the NFL in Jacksonville. Congrats, Buffalo. Now you get to face the number 2 run defense in the NFL. However, I still don't think it'll be a huge burden on them or on James Cook, because you look back at the Jacksonville game this past weekend, and James Cook was really a non-factor. He only had 46 yards on the ground, which is far below his season average of over 100 yards per game. And the real threat to Denver's defense is the same as the reason the Bills were able to beat Jacksonville, which is also what y'all said, and it's Josh Allen. The Broncos are going to have a really hard time stopping him on both the air and on the ground. And I just think I think the Bills have the quarterback advantage, clearly. I think Josh Allen's a very good player. I think he's going to play his heart out this weekend, and I think it's going to be very difficult for the Broncos defense to contain him as good as they are. However, it's not to discredit this Broncos defense. It's still very talented. They have the 2nd-ranked run defense, which I mentioned. They have the 3rd least points allowed per game. They have a top 10 passing defense. So at the end of the day, the Bills are still going to have to keep playing a very high level of football, a very good brand of football, if they want to compete in this game. Where Buffalo can really take advantage is the aforementioned inconsistency of Denver's offense, because J.K. Dobbins won't be playing due to injury. So Denver's RB1 is RJ Harvey. And while we've seen some flashes out of him, I don't think he's consistent enough himself to really exploit Buffalo's 28th ranked run defense. He's going to have to play really, really well for the Broncos to really hold up there. I just think the Broncos are likely going to have to air out the ball, which is very difficult against Buffalo's secondary because, surprise, surprise, they are number 1 ranked in pass defense in the league. So overall, I think it's just a very difficult for the Broncos game, or I think it's a very difficult game for the Broncos to get anything going on offense. And while their defense can certainly pose a challenge, I think the Bills will outscore them with Josh Allen playing like Josh Allen. So give me the Bills for this game. However, I do think it's the easiest game to pick of the week.
I got the Bills as well, but I don't think it's the easiest. I don't think any of these games are easy to pick.
Yeah, I'll clarify. I don't think it's easy to pick. I think it's the easiest to pick out of the 4.
Fair.
I'll just pick the Bills as well. I'm not going to waste any more time. All the reasons have been said. Yeah, I think Denver are not fucking frauds, but the Bills clearly have a talent advantage. And plus, I want to see them again in the AFC Championship game against the Patriots. Yes, I do have an agenda, so there you go. Next on docket, we have Seahawks and 49ers. I look back at the Week 18 footage. The 49ers defense can't stop the run. I'm not crediting that Eagles game one bit because the Eagles are so bland. I think Seattle definitely could have played a lot better in this game, and they should have blown out the 49ers, but it is what it is. I think this is the easiest game to pick of the week just because of what happened last time, and we saw what happened. And now with Fred Warner being out against Seattle, I fully expect Seattle to have a bigger win, especially at home. So give me the Seahawks in this game. I already know from my notes what transpired, not only in the Eagles game, but the Seahawks game as well for the 49ers. And I do not trust them one fucking bit. And if Saleh somehow coaches his ass off and somehow gets this team to the NFC Championship game, along with Shanahan, good for them. But I see the road ending here. I see him going to Miami after this game. And I see the Seahawks winning this game.
Yeah, I got the Seahawks. I think this is the easiest game to pick, in my opinion. Again, not an easy pick. I mean, you can make a case for all 8 of these teams to make to win the Super Bowl that we have right now, and I would 100% agree. But I have the Seahawks in a close one. If Charbonnet can break off a couple explosive runs, same with Kenneth Walker. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the Niners defense adapts without. You thought you may have had Warner back, but you don't. Just super interesting. I have the Seahawks winning. I think the score is probably going to be 34 to 24. So I have them winning by 13 points. A couple scores. But yeah, I wouldn't put it past Saleh or Shanahan to coach their ass off and make it a tight win.
I agree with you. I think this is also going to be a tight game. I think it's going to be much more offense than it was week 18, which was, that game was weird. Really weird. How is it so low scoring? Like, any reasons for that?
The Seahawks just shit the bed whenever they had the ball, even though they clearly could get a run game going. That's how I could explain it.
Yeah, so you have that, but this is going to be much more of an offensive game. I do think it's going to be close early. I do think the Seahawks will pull away because I have the Seahawks winning. I think they will pull away late. I think their defense will start to get stops later in the game where it's more important. But you cannot count out Brock Purdy in this offense. All these years where you expect Brock Purdy to just not show up, he does. At this point, he's probably the most proven quarterback, one of the most proven quarterbacks in this league. I think he will put up points. I think he will have, late in the game, I do think he will put up a drive, get them to score, and you'll think, oh, this is going to be a lot closer than you think. And then the Seahawks are going to pull away again with a great drive and a scoring touchdown drive. The main issue for the Niners, obviously, is whatever's left of this defense. Can they stop anything? Now, luckily, your strength of this weak defense is your secondary, and that's what's going to be really important to be able to stop JSN. Don't have to worry about Rashid Shaheed's deep threats because they don't let him run deep routes for whatever reason. Main issue is, who the hell is Garrett Wallow? Garrett Wallow and Eric Kendricks are going to be your starting linebackers again. When I found out a guy named Garrett Wallow existed, me and my dad, you stop us with these jokes. They're pulling people out of nowhere to play really important positions. Now, important is objective for some people when it comes to linebacker, but as a former linebacker, it's an important position, especially when you're trying to replace Fred Warner, especially when you're trying to replace D. Winters, who I personally think has played well when he had to. But you're out him, you're out Tatum, you're out Warner, you're out all these guys, and now you're relying on your literal practice squad at linebacker. And at E-line, you're just really young. You're just with second and first year guys. Meanwhile, Seahawks are healthier. That's also another big thing. They're healthier. Now, obviously, we recently got the news about Sam Darnold, but I'm not going to worry much about that. He said he's going to play. I think he's going to play. There's damn near no way he doesn't play. But at the end of the day, one team's more healthier. I think it'll be a very offensive heavy first half, but in the second half, the Seahawks defense tighten up. They will adjust. They will get stops. whereas the Seahawks offense will not be stopped. And that's why I have the Seahawks winning this game.
The first thing to note about this game is that Fred Warner's practice window did open this week, but he's going to remain sidelined for this game. However, if they can pull off a win, he will likely be available for the NFC Championship game, which would be a massive bonus to them. However, it does come at the loss of George Kittle, who got injured during the win against the Eagles, which is just that's a huge blow to the offense. It does mean they're probably going to rely on CMC a little bit more, and their other receivers a little bit more. They won't be as tight end heavy as usual. Trent Williams returning for this game as well is a boost for the Niners to bring back one of the league's elite linemen back into the game just in time for the divisional round, probably their toughest matchup so far, maybe of the entire season. The Seahawks are just a really, really good team. They're 11th in rushing yards, first off, and I still think Kenneth Walker is a very underrated running back. I frankly don't understand why the Seahawks don't give him more of a snap share, because I think he has deserved one. But I think it's going to be a very, very tough game for the Niners. I think the Seahawks are going to kind of run it from the start. I think it comes down to if Sam Darnold can limit his turnovers and run a consistent offense. And if he can, I think the Seahawks win pretty easily. Their offense is just phenomenal. Their defense is the best in the NFL in terms of points allowed. They have probably my vote for Defensive Rookie of the Year, Nicky Minwori, which I am biased because I'm a Gamecocks fan, but I do think he's played really well. I think he deserves the award, which is crazy that he's even in the conversation despite being injured for multiple games, because usually being injured for multiple games eliminates you from like any award. So the fact that he's still in the conversation is pretty impressive by itself. And the fact that he might win is even more. But if the Ghosts decide to rear their ugly head in front of Darnold once again, and playoff Darnold comes back, it could be a much more competitive game. And I think I would side for the Niners if they can win the turnover battle by like maybe I'll say 2 turnovers. If they get 2 more turnovers than the Seahawks defensively, I think they'll win. But for now, I like the Seahawks to win this one.
Next on docket, we have Texans and Patriots. Now, this game is also pretty simple, but not for the reason you think. It's not because of prediction. It comes down to one main thing. Does the Texans offense score or not? That will be the ultimate question in this game. Because in the Steelers game, let's just say kindly it was miserable to watch this offense go to work and CJ Stroud turn the ball over like 4 times or whatever the fuck it was, right? And so I don't know who's going to win this game because I don't know if the Texans offense is going to show up, right? And this is coming from as a Patriots fan. If the Texans offense doesn't show up, this game is 50-50. If the Texans offense scores 21 points, they probably win because their defense is going to whoop our offensive line's ass, right? So I don't know who's going to win this game, but I'm going to give Texans the slight edge just because of the fact that they have probably one of the best defenses in the NFL we've ever seen. So I'm going to give the Texans the benefit of the doubt that they can actually get an offense together, because I've seen that they can for at least 3 plays, but I don't know what's going to happen. So I do think the Texans are the better team, and I do expect them to win if their offense shows up, but offense is just a big question.
This game, I think, is the toughest to pick of the entire week for me. I think it's such a coin flip. I don't even know who I'm going to pick to win yet. I'm going to decide that as I'm talking through this. So, first off, Milton Williams coming back was a huge boost for the Patriots pass rush this past weekend. And as a team, they sacked Justin Herbert 5 times. Now they are facing a Texans offensive line that is marginally better than the Chargers, so we'll see if they can mirror that same success that they had against the Chargers offensive line. That's remained to be seen, but both of these teams have struggled with protecting the quarterback this season. Some more good news for Patriots on the defensive front is Christian Gonzalez, who went in a concussion protocol last Sunday, but Mike Vrabel said he expects him on the field for this Sunday's game. I can see this as a very low scoring, like 17-13 type game, just because of the 2 defenses. I mean, the Patriots are top 10 defensively and everything. The Texans have probably one of the best defenses this decade, maybe this century, you can argue. I don't know the numbers there, but I think it's going to be very low scoring. And it kind of goes back to Yin's sentiment from the first episode of the podcast before I came in here, that it's going to come down to whichever team scores 17 points. It's just, this is such a tough pick for me. I don't even know, man. I think it could go either way. The Patriots are probably more likely to score 17 points. I like their offense more, but I I don't like it, but give me the Texans to win this one. It can really go either way, but I'll lock in the Texans for now.
Fancy. I'm going to be honest. I don't think either team gets 17 points.
We're talking
I think
6.
the score.
That's fair.
I don't think any team gets to 17 points in this game. I think final score is going to be something like 13-10. If there's going to be a quarterback that can beat this Texans defense from the AFC, it's probably Drake May. He's had a really good year. Just awesome completion percentage. Just making throws that aren't very risky. He finds people in stride. He has his good set of legs on him to extend plays. I think May can crack the key to this Houston defense. I think you do bring up a good point. It's really going to come down to, can Houston move the ball? If Houston controls time of possession, even if they don't end up with points on the board, but if they control time of possession, they get a couple field goals on the board, I think this game ends up being very well in Houston's favor. But I think the quarterback aspect is what I brought up with Josh Allen. I think that's a big aspect of this game. I like Drake May a lot better than I like CJ Stroud. No disrespect to CJ Stroud, but this Texans offense just takes a long time to get up and running. And it's very momentum based. So if the defense doesn't get a couple turnovers early on, I think the Patriots are going to wrestle away control of this one. I got them winning 13-10. It's going to be a low scoring one.
I agree with all of y'all. This is going to be super low scoring game. Now, what I do want to say is that, one, this offensive line to me is significantly better than the Chargers, given by the fact that they have their starters from the beginning of the season. Chargers O-line got decimated over the year. They're starting dudes who were, now to be fair, PFF isn't end all be all, but when you're starting guys who are ranked 41st out of 41st, 37th out of 38th, and like 36 out of 37th, nothing's going to happen. So the Texans offensive line, as bad as they are better than what the Patriots faced last week. And the main issue with the offense, as we saw last week, the edge rushers were just getting to CJ. They just constantly got to him. Patriots did the same thing to the Chargers, but can they do that against the Texans? Can they get pressure on CJ Stroud? And they convert that pressure into sacks. And if they can, then yes, this is going to be very similar to what we saw last week. And it's going to be low score. It's just going to be really hard to watch at times. And with Gonzo back, you're gonna be worrying about not having Nico Collins, because I've heard that Nico Collins is going to be out on concussion protocol. So it's going to rely heavily on Jaden Higgins, on Christian Kirk. You're also down Tank Dell from earlier in the season. You're going to have to rely on Xavier Hutchinson, Jalen Knoll. But it's a good thing that you can rely on guys in which you can confidently name. You know these guys can produce. You know these guys can play, even if they're rookies. Even if there's a guy you traded, a 5th round pick for Kirk, something like that, and a late round, and you got Xavier Hutchinson in the late round. But these are all quality players. So CJ Stroud, even without Nico Collins, can be a top 10 wide receiver, who's probably a top 10 wide receiver in this league, still have guys you can rely on the outside. It's just that, can they beat this Patriots secondary? Can the Patriots get pressure on CJ Stroud? Defensively for the Texans, ain't much to talk about. This is probably the best defense in the league. Best defense of this decade, maybe. And you can start talking about all-time defenses, but this is a ridiculous defense. If you think you can run the ball on this defense, they'll tell you no. If you think you can run outside on this defense, sure, you get away from Daniil Hunter or Will Anderson or any of the guys on that D-line. Guess what? You got to deal with Kalen Bullock. You got to deal with Jalen Petrie. You got to deal with Mari Lassiter, who might be the best run-stopping corner in the league, just by the numbers. And then when you watch him play, you think that. And you also got Derek Stingley. So, can you run the ball at all? Can you pass the ball at all? Can you do anything offensively? And also a very important part of this game is special teams. Can your kickers make kicks? I think whoever wins the special teams of this game wins this game overall, because this is going to be two very nasty defenses on varying levels on the front. But this is going to be a very nasty game to watch. It's going to be very defensive heavy. It's going to be very hard on both quarterbacks. Whoever making plays when you need to, not even scoring touchdowns, just getting into field goal range is a win against these defenses. So your kickers need to be on their A game. They cannot miss a kick. If you miss a kick in this game, you're screwed, and you're probably going to lose. And so that's why I'm going to take the Texans, because I think they have the better kicker. I think they have the better defense. And when push comes to shove, I think their offense matches up better against the Patriots defense, whereas the Patriots offense probably doesn't match up well against this defense, because boy, oh boy, it's going to be rough to watch Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson go against Will Campbell and who's their other tackle?
Morgan Moses.
Yeah, it's going to be rough to watch that. Drake May's legs are going to be really important. Can he escape from the pocket? Can he make plays with his legs? Can he run for yards like we saw last week? That's going to be an important part of this game. I think it's going to be low scoring, as you all said. But at the end of the day, this game is going to be won by the legs kickers. Give me the Texans.
And finally, we have the final game of the day. We have Bears and Rams. And once again, I'm going to allow Fancy to start as punishment for his two teams losing. So, Fancy, fire away.
Okay, well, first off, the Panthers, I still think they won. They didn't win scoring wise, but I still think they put up a really good fight. I think in the minds of Panthers fans, they still won, because this was a game that we were expecting to get blown out in, and we went toe-to-toe with the Rams. Now, that brings up my second point, in that the Rams have looked like the Rams in these past few weeks. On paper, this Rams team should be the best team in the NFL, I think. Even better than the Seahawks, I'd say, on paper. And especially better than the Bears. But in the last 4 weeks, they just haven't looked the same as they've looked in the entire rest of the season. I mean, you look at this past game against the Panthers, they went toe-to-toe against a team that had a losing record in the playoffs, and they did play a really good game. And you can argue it's a playoff game. Bryce Young played his heart out. You can argue all that stuff, but they still probably shouldn't have gone that close with an 8-9 team in the playoffs. They played well against the Cardinals both times they played them, blew them out both times. You can argue that's a division matchup. You can argue the Cardinals suck. They lost to the Falcons. Bijan had a really good game, so that I question that a little bit. The Falcons just played really, really good. Bijan had an outstanding game. The Seahawks game came down to the fourth quarter, where the Seahawks had an incredible comeback, probably game of the year for me. So a lot of these games I just question a little bit. Yeah, there's outside factors that maybe we're not seeing here, but the Rams haven't looked like the Rams. I don't really know how to pinpoint what's wrong with them. I don't know what's been affecting them on offense and on defense. I think their secondary might be part of the problem, but I truly don't know why the Rams have looked like this. I expect them to look better in this game against the Bears, but if they don't, I'm just going to say Bears win straight off the bat. I don't think they win if they don't return to the Rams form. I think it's going to be a very high scoring game, though. Assuming the Rams can return to Rams form, I think it's going to be very high scoring. I think it's going to be a good game. I think the Rams win on paper. Both secondaries have issues. As I mentioned with the Rams, with the Bears secondary also has issues. Both teams are offensively driven. The Rams defense is better than the Bears defense. But the Rams offense is number one in yards per game. They have 395 yards per game, almost 400, which is kind of crazy. They lead the league there, just above the Patriots, I believe. No, just above Dallas. Then it's Patriots. But very good offense, very good offensive production. It's going to be high scoring. This is going to be a game that comes down to the last 5 minutes, probably. And you're going to see whichever team scores a touchdown last is probably going to be the one that wins. But I would say give me the Rams for this one.
Looking at the forecast, that's how deep I'm going to decide who's winning this game. Is I'm looking at the forecast for Sunday for Chicago, and it's looking to be about
17 degrees around game time. 20 mile an hour
that shit
wind.
cold.
That is going to be like, look. I've lived in Minnesota, South Dakota. Like, I understand how cold that is. But if you're from Chicago, if you live in Chicago, is 17 degrees really that cold?
No.
Like, no, it's not at all. I will say this though. It's not like they have a quarterback who hasn't played in these elements before. Obviously, Stafford played for Detroit, and where do you got to go? You got to go play Green Bay. You got to go play Chicago sometimes late in the year. It's not like he's not used to playing in elements like this. There's even that stretch when the Vikings played at the University of Minnesota Stadium, right, which was outdoors. So it's not like Stafford and the crew is that inexperienced to being outside in the elements. And I'm not going to question their ability to run the ball. I mean, obviously, I think McVay's game plan is to get 13 personnel and run with Kyron Williams and Blake Corum all day. That's the game plan. And use Puka Nacua whenever you need to. But I can't quite put my finger on it. The Bears are playing at home. They're riding really high. They're playing their best football, which is crazy considering the first half of that Green Bay game was probably their worst football. But they're playing their best football. I don't know what to think about this Bears team. But my heart is telling me the Bears are going to take this. They have the home field advantage. They're coming high flying after being a division rival in the wild card round in a very emotional fashion. And I like the Bears this one. They're going to be able to run the ball. And I think Caleb's going to make a couple nice plays, and I think it's going to be a close one. I'm going to have Chicago winning by about 4.
I'm going to be different to both of you. Give me the Rams. Now, you're probably going to think, why? Why the Rams? Well, Chicago, you were down 21 what in the first half? And then the Packers, for some reason, remembered, oh, wait, Micah Parsons isn't here. We're not going to play defense. You're not going to have that issue as a Rams for the Rams defense. The Rams, to me, Stafford will make sure they will get points early. Whereas I don't know if the Bears will get points early. You'd hope they would, given that this is their stadium. But last week, they didn't get anything. Some people could say it's better defense. Someone could say it's an equal defense or a worse defense. But I do think, given that they are healthier than what the Packers were, they have all their guys. I don't think they're going to give up 30 fucking points in the second half. I think that Rams will play a complete game through and through, both halves. Whereas I don't know if I'm going to get that with Chicago. Obviously, this seems to be a second half team, which is going to be important. I think the Rams win this game. They play a complete game. The Bears don't play a complete game, and be the difference. So you can say the weather is going to be a major impact, because last year, the reason the Rams lost, well, not the reason, but the Rams lost in a snow game. They lost in a cold weather game. So it can happen the same here, but I don't think it will. Give me the Rams.
I also have the Bears win this game. I have confidence in both offenses to score because I think the Bears defense is complete dog shit, and I don't trust the Rams considering the fact they gave up, 27 to Carolina or whatever the number was. So
30, 31.
31? Okay, thank you. So to me, I'm just going to take who has more advantages in this game, and I'm going to trust the Bears, and I'm going to put way too much confidence in the fact that Dennis Allen can stop being predictable in his coverages, and I'll pick them. So they're the team I'm more confident in this game to win, and I fully expect Seattle to eagerly be waiting for either of these teams in the NFC Championship game. So we'll leave it at that. So to end the episode, I'm going to pan the camera directly at Fancy because apparently he has a new team he's rooting for. So thank you guys so much for watching this episode. We really do appreciate it. Yes, I am playing clown music over this right now as we are recording. Yeah, keep doing that, you fucking bandwagon. Thank you so much for watching this episode. We really do appreciate it. The four of us will see you all next week, and hopefully, whatever the fuck happens. So, see ya.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah. Yep.
You stopped lagging.
That's
I thought we
okay.
got to
Switch
turn
my
off your
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi for a second.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, my Wi-Fi is more inconsistent than the Broncos defense or the Broncos offense. Yeah, my bad.